Good evening, everyone. Thank you so very much for joining us tonight. This is our stakeholder meeting for the Nashville Entertainment Commission, BL 2022-1250. The goal for tonight is really to give you an opportunity to speak about the legislation, council members that may have questions to be able to discuss it together as well. And tomorrow night it is on second reading. Thank you very much. So to begin, I just wanted to give a bit of background as to how we got here in the first place. So my background has been in entertainment as an artist, as a recording artist, and as an actress. And when I came here 15 years ago, originally, I realized there were not a lot of avenues that were very structured here in town in terms of film and television, and also music. While we're known to be Music City, it's kind of, we've phoned it in because it's just kind of an afterthought. And so when we had Nashville in town, I wondered, was this going to be the beginning of having more projects in town so people wouldn't have to leave town to work? And we would build a brand for Nashville, and that didn't happen. And I subsequently found out that that was because of our incentive packages and how difficult it was to do permitting here in Nashville. And so when I ran, I really wanted to address this and find a way to bring everything together so we could be cohesive and also realize that our city right now is expanding in terms of entertainment. We're not just country music, we're R&B, we're rock, we're also film and music production. We're also moving into virtual reality and various forms of digital media. And so we need a one-stop shop. And so when the state of Metro took place, Mayor Cooper referenced the creation of a new office for music, film, and entertainment. And that was on the heels of having a conversation with him regarding research I've been doing for over a year now, speaking with various stakeholders to find out what the needs are, what are the gaps here in the city, what would make this city easier to work in across multiple genres. And so I'm excited that Mayor Cooper did decide to create that office. And so presenting the Nashville Entertainment Commission seemed like it would make a lot of sense. In many other cities, there are offices of film and music, or there are music and film together. And then they also have entities that work with them in order to promote the industry, hence the Nashville Entertainment Commission. And so because we have so many industries in town, it makes sense that this is an entertainment commission that is music, it is film, it is television, it is everything that is creative. Not wanting to break it up because we already have a problem of operating in silos in many ways across town. So this is an opportunity to be on the forefront and miss that backward step. So we discussed the difference between the office and the commission, and I wanted to let you know the commission that is being proposed has 11 members, 3 people appointed by the mayor, 3 by council. Then there are 3 union representatives, 1 from IATSE, 1 from the Screen Actors Guild, and then also from the American Federation of Musicians. These are 5-year terms that will be staggered in the very beginning. The goal of the commission is to address a variety of issues that we are not addressing right now. One is diversity and equity. That has been a huge problem, making sure that all the right voices are at the table. We have many different communities here, and so all of those voices need to be at the table to talk about what projects are coming here and how we can lift Nashville on an equitable stage. In addition, promoting and recruiting projects to come here. As I referenced before, one of our largest problems, people don't want to come here because it's difficult to work here. From the permitting process, getting permissions, if halfway through your project, you need to go to NES and get lights turned on or turned off, that is a veritable nightmare because there is not a streamlined process to be able to get to someone to make those changes. So this commission also would be able to address building our educational bridges. So we have several film and music programs. Of course, many have heard of the Belmont program, MTSU's program, but this is a way that we connect everything. And in one stop, you'd be able to find out who's running what program, what are they offering, how can we connect our current students with any burgeoning projects. So what I'd like to do for council members that have any questions, I'd love to give you the opportunity to ask questions now. And I would also like to hear from stakeholders. So the microphone that is at the end will give you an opportunity to speak. Are there any council members that have any questions at this moment? Yes, Councilmember Hurt.
I thank you so very much. I guess my question is, I'm concerned because I know that we have legislation offering Office of Film. Is anyone against the creation of that office?
I'm sorry,
The
are you referring
Office
to?
of Film, we have legislation coming up tomorrow also that is suggesting that we create an Office of Film and not the Nashville Entertainment Industry Hub, but just specifically focusing on film. And I was just wondering if anyone was against an Office of Film.
So I would say I'm in support of having the original office that was suggested, which was an Office of Film, Music, and Entertainment, which is what I've been talking about for over a year. And in terms of the new legislation, that is not mine.
I thought we were able to ask that to
Oh.
the audience.
Yeah.
I thought that was the purpose.
I thought you were asking a question of me regarding the current legislation. That was my question.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any stakeholders that would like to speak in regards to the current legislation that we have before us that is going for second reading? And if you will go to the microphone at the end and the button on the right, if you press that, you can have a seat if you'd like. Please let us know your name and where you're from.
I'm Peter Kerland. I'm the business agent for the International Alliance of Theatrical and Stage Employees, Local 492, which represents film and television workers across the state of Tennessee. Our office is based in Nashville, but our members work all across the state. And this is having an office that is a mirror of the state film office or state entertainment office would be a really great boon, because in those cities where there exists such an office, it's of a tremendous value to the filmmakers who we both recruit to the state and those who are indigenous to here. Permitting is very important. Safety issues are important. Access to police and all the things that you mentioned are very important. And you know, I always look to the city of Memphis, which has got, I think at this point, the longest serving film commissioner in the country. And she is extremely good at finding public resources, private resources, and everything, because she's very tied into the community due to a very long tenure in that office. And so what I'm hoping from this is that it allows somebody to be hired or appointed who is not a political appointee and therefore can have a long tenure, and the continuity of that office can help solve all these kind of issues. I certainly have, as the councilman's questioned about an office of film, I'm not religious about whether it's an office of film or an office of entertainment. My side is film, but any of those activities, many of which our members and the people we represent work on, would all be helped both in film, television, concerts, live theater. All of those kind of things need the same level of support. And a lot of the companies that do this are the same across all the various industries. So again, I'm not specific as to how this is set up, except that it really needs to be independent of political appointments to the largest extent possible. Certainly not having to change every 4 years with a mayoral administration. That's what I've got. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. I appreciate you also mentioning theater, because that is something else that needs to be incorporated in our talent pool. Anyone else want to speak? Stakeholders? No, nope, you can come forth if you would like. Just let us know your name and your affiliation.
My name is Andy, and I'm involved in the film industry. Can you all hear me?
Yep, you can speak a little bit louder.
Do I need to press
There you
this
go,
thing?
they got you.
The only thing I would like to clarify is that the proposal that everyone in our industry, everyone in this room, everyone in our entire community is definitely in support of an entity that will help our industry. That's not even a question. I think the only issue is really how to structure it. As Peter was just saying, the major thing for us is to form an entity that is in alignment all across the board with the retitled and repurposed Tennessee Entertainment Commission, which used to be film and tape and film and music and all that kind of stuff. In 2018, the Visual Content Act was expanded to include digital media and animation and video gaming and of course, including film and television and both scripted and unscripted and documentaries. I think, though, there's been a misunderstanding in terms of music because, and I definitely want Brother Dave to hear this, because what we're really talking about is needing an entity that reflects the incentives that have been set up by the Tennessee Entertainment Commission in both the grant rebate program that was set up in 2016 and the new F&E program, franchise and excise tax program. So as Peter was saying, we really need an entity in order to recruit projects and develop projects that is in alignment with all the areas that the Entertainment Commission, Tennessee Entertainment Commission focuses on, but that also completely includes film for television, film for feature film, music for television, music for feature films, music for gaming, music for digital entertainment, music for everything. So music is absolutely included, and we're talking about film scores and we're talking about songs. Those songs can come from Jack White, they can come from Garth Brooks, or they can come from whatever, but I think the main difference in terms of what we're looking at is that, music and film in this town are not really apples and oranges. Film is kind of like an apple, and the music industry here is like a huge pumpkin. And it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's been a multi-billion-dollar industry for many decades. The allocation for this office right now, regardless of which language anyone supports, is only $100K. Even a couple $100K is not very much. It's a small fiscal note. And I think that, Bob Raines, who's the head of the Tennessee Entertainment Commission, told us in 2019, my associate there, Jonathan Sod, along with, we had meetings with him and Butch Spiridon and the Chamber and two different ECD heads 3.5 years ago, that he would be fine and he would recognize an entity in the CVC or the Chamber or Metro. We originally wanted to try it in the CVC simply because it would not involve a lot of bureaucracy. It could have simply been a department inside the CVC. We could have gotten a little funding out of Butch, raised funding elsewhere, and begun to handle permits immediately. I think our main concern is like setting up an entity that may take several months to get going, because we do have projects that are coming now. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I think what we would love is to have something that could be expedited and operative quickly. But the one thing I wanted to clear up is the main focus in alignment with Bob Raines and everything that he's got with the Entertainment Commission, and the fact that there will in fact be music for everything. So we are not excluding music in any way, shape, or form. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else like to speak? Yes, Councilmember Allen.
I'd just like to, I'll show my ignorance here, get a good explanation of what the role of the office is and what the role of the commission would be, and how those two work together, and then I guess as well how they would then work with the Tennessee Entertainment Commission.
So that's a great question. So the new legislation that Councilmember Hurt brought up, this office that previously had not been entered, that office would function for the city in recruiting and promoting projects. The commission also can help with that and work with that office. The intention for having BL 2022-1250 was to have a commission started because we were about to embark on having conversations about creating the office and not doing legislation on it, having a large body meeting with the mayor's office, having that being structured. So I did not want to affect that. So this is new information that they now have changed their minds and would like to move forward with legislation without having a stakeholder meeting. The commission was put forth so that we would have an entity in place for once the office was created that could work with it. And so this was the first step, not trying to take control from anyone, but to have an auxiliary body that could work alongside. And then with that, with the Tennessee Entertainment Commission and Bob Raines, who is someone that I've been speaking with throughout my research, being able to take advantage of the incentives that exist on the state level. Unfortunately, our state incentives are very small. It's only $2 million a year. If we were to have a Nashville Entertainment Commission, I think that sets us up very well to be able to position bringing new projects here, generating more tax revenue, and being able to ask for additional funding for the entirety of the state in terms of incentives. Yes, Councilmember Hurt.
I just would like to say that I'm not the expert when it comes to this, but I know that I've been in some form of music and entertainment in this city for 22 years. And I know there are several members in this audience that I've talked to and dealt with over almost a quarter of a decade who has also been working to establish this. So it's not that this is brand new and that that now something is being done. There's been a problem and it is now someone that has come, has risen to the occasion to carry it out and make sure that it's done. But there have been people working on this same thing for decades. And I want to make sure that we acknowledge and give those individuals credit because I know that I've spoken to Jonathan Said when he was director of the Arts Commission many, many years ago regarding this same type of thing. And what we have tried to do is come together and coordinate and come away with something that would be beneficial to all and that we all walk away as having done something good as a body and not individually doing things for or against one another. So I just wanted to make sure that that is clear, but I too agree that it should not be in the mayor's office because when that administration changes, then you never know what will happen. And something as important as this is very important for it to be able to stand alone and sustain itself.
Thank you, Councilmember Hurt. Would anyone else like to speak on the legislation in front of us? Yes, sir.
Here we go. Hi, Dave Pomeroy here. Sorry? I did. Yeah. Yeah, don't push my buttons. Just kidding. Well, you know, I really want to make more observations than necessarily ask specific questions. You know, I think whatever is done, we need to remember how Nashville got to become Music City. It was not an accident. It was because in the decade after Right to Work, big companies came to Nashville and said, we want to make money on your music. And they hired musicians to run their record labels, Chet Atkins and Owen Bradley, who stood up and said, that's fine, but here's how we do it around here, and this is what we're going to do. And it was a friendly conversation. It was a win-win. It was not a win-lose. and it built this community of musicians, songwriters, producers, artists, record labels, publishers, publicists, etc. Because people were nice to one another and they worked stuff out. Yes, there have been many exceptions, but this is something that, and you know, I'm a military kid, so I traveled the world, and there's nowhere else on earth where this is still going on. This is the last place people can come and their dreams can still come true and they can get paid and still be cool. Try going to Austin, Texas and get paid and see if you're not, soon you're called a sellout. So I think we really need to remember how we got here. Voluntary compliance with what is the right way to do stuff, mutual respect. I think that's really important. I agree that the paperwork process can be improved. I don't think there's anybody that doesn't want that to happen. We should, to me, that is a very simple thing because, you know, we deal with, at the Musicians Union, by the way, I'm president of the Musicians Union for the last 14 years. You know, we deal with explaining paperwork to people who don't want to deal with paperwork, and we're good at it. But we need to preserve what made Nashville the way it is, and I think we can definitely, I think a great starting point is to look at that process and see and maybe compare it to some other places. But it's also really important to understand that, you know, the reason films are being done in Georgia and all around us is because we have a systemic problem in Tennessee where the rest of Tennessee is jealous of Nashville and what we do. And so it's very hard to get the state to do stuff. And with all due respect to Bob Raines, who I like very much as a person, the TEC has been pretty ineffective from our standpoint. And I think there are real composition problems with who's on there. And, you know, which is, you know, we want to attract people. Yes, we want people to come, but we don't want to kowtow to big companies and do it that way because that's not helping Nashvillians. You know, I'll give you one example, Electronic Arts. They came here and started doing non-union sessions over at Ocean Way Studios, owned by Belmont University, who are turning out hundreds of students every year. That's a whole nother issue. But they basically invited companies like Electronic Arts to, you don't have to go to Hungary anymore. You can come to Nashville. Electronic Arts profits from in 2014 were $3.65 billion. This year, they're almost $7 billion, almost doubled. And these musicians have been deprived of all their intellectual property rights, which is why Nashville is Nashville. You know, I'll give you one quick example. There's a movie a few years ago called Ford versus Ferrari. Mm-hmm. The soundtrack for that movie, the main piece of that soundtrack is a song that was recorded at RCA Studios in 1970 on a day where Elvis had a toothache and didn't show up. And James Burton made an entire instrumental record that day that sold 17 copies and went away. 50 years later, this director finds that song and makes it the main song in that movie. All those musicians who were, it was under a union contract, all those musicians got paid $1,500 and their descendants, if they're passed away like Jerry Kerrigan would be. And their first residual royalty check was 14 grand apiece. And that's just the first one. And that's from something that's 50 years old. Patsy Cline's Crazy got used by Mazda for 2 years, and a 90-year-old violin player came in and picked up a check for $2 grand. That's how we got here. We can't mess that up. Film and music are connected, but despite what some people say, they're not always connected. If you're in the music business, you're not necessarily in the film industry, which I heard someone say recently, which I think is just a terrible generalization. Yes, everybody, you know, that's, for a while, you know, that's been the big fix of the music industry. It's like, let's get in TV, and wow, they're gonna give us $500 to put our song on a major network. You know, it's not easy to do, and we have this culture of respect that goes all the way back to Fisk University and all of the stuff that's happened through here, and I just wanna make sure that whatever we do keep people involved. The first versions of this bill did not have our union involved. Okay, I didn't take it personally, but why would you come to Music City and create something and not include the music industry? You know, we pay out to musicians, members and non-members, $10 to $12 million a year. Even during the pandemic, we paid out $8 and $9 million. And it's because of the intellectual property rights. So I just don't want anybody, I mean, I know that people want to make something happen, but let's not get in such a hurry that we do it wrong. That would be my, office, commission, whatever you want to call it. Let's get the right people involved, but let's not just invite companies that are already ripping off the world to come here and rip us off. We don't need that. And I hope that this, it doesn't become a come hither to the point where we forget how we got here. So I really appreciate the opportunity to speak. Sorry it's so long, but, my door is always open to anybody who wants to talk about anything, because there is no place on earth like Nashville. We can either enhance it or we can screw it up, and I hope that we do the first. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. And in creating this, it wasn't a matter of saying that music, film, and television are all equal, but more so that the feedback that I was given was that people wanted more compatibility and the ability to work together and it be in one place and not have things be separate. Because when they are separate, then a lot of times we end up having to do back work. We create entities and the left hand and the right hand aren't talking, and then we have to go backwards and say, oh, I don't know how we got here. It is my fervent hope and desire for us to have entities for entertainment that work, that aren't going to disappear after 2 or 3 years, where people are going to get tired and say, I don't like who's been selected. Has this been kind of an inside job of who's been selected and who's been appointed? The goal for the commission was to have a mix, to have executives, but also to have boots on the ground on the commission so that you're hearing from every single perspective of what's happening across multiple genres. And to have a body that can assist with an office that we've now committed to creating. So I would like to refocus us, and this legislation that we're talking about is the commission. It's an entertainment commission. It includes everyone. It's film, television, music, every single entertainment entity. And it's balanced in the legislation so that there is no one genre that gets to take over the commission. It could never be all film, it could never be all music, but it would always be a split so that we are elevating film and television, because that's never really been paid attention to in the way that it should have been, but also acknowledging that music has been our foundation and our roots. And I do think that having a commission of 11 people that could assist with a new office that is being created, I think that's beneficial. That's more bodies, more opinions, and an opportunity for us to really cover our bases and not be myopic. I think when we make bodies too small, it becomes very insular. People feel neglected, and we come back to what I was discussing in the beginning in terms of equity and diversity and making sure that we're including people. So my hope is that in having this conversation, hearing from all of you what's needed and what's been missing, that there is a way to bridge both. You can have a commission and you can have an office. They are not mutually exclusive. So we can move forward with this legislation, create a commission, and we can also have an office, and they would be able to work together. It is not either or, and it's not a battle. It doesn't have to be. That is certainly not my intention and is not my desire. So I would like, if there's anyone that I have missed that would like to speak, please come forth. Sir, your name and your affiliation.
Hello. Hey, I'm Max Butler. I'm from Nashville, grew up here, went to Vanderbilt, moved away for 4 years and came back in 2008. I work in film. I have a small business, produce films, commercials, music videos. I've done live stream concerts for Amazon and did a lot of work with Spotify here recently. I've been talking to people about a film office since 2015. When I first came back, I was a part of a couple of shows that actually got to use the last film office and worked with Paul Nye and Marilyn Edwards, who were there. And unfortunately, that went away. And so, yeah, it's something that I've been trying to get people riled up about. And Jeffrey Gordon and Andy Van Roon and a few other people have been working on it for a long time too, and Peter and Daryl and a lot of other people. But yeah, so I've been working with them or talking about it since 2015 with Jeffrey and other groups, and, recently reinvigorated that and called Bob Rains to see what his advice was for doing this for Nashville. And he said, hey, Joy Stiles just called me about this. And this was about 16 months ago. And so I've been talking on and off with Joy about that and a small group of other people that were involved in their spare time. But I'm in favor of this commission in that exactly what Joy was just talking about. It's a way to set something up to have input for this office. I don't know about the new legislation. That's news to me. But what the mayor said about starting the office for all of them together, this seems like the next step to have people involved to figure out what that office needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, please.
Come on up. Push the button.
The one on the right.
Okay. Hello, my name is Jonathan Sad, and I, for years, I've worked with the Arts Commission, state and local, but also worked within our film community with my friends. There were several things to discuss that I'll just quickly speak to. I will say that we have met, Andy and I, Andy Van Roon and a few others had met several times with different administrations. And in our current administration, we met in the very beginning. And in the very beginning, they said, well, that's a great idea, but there's no money. So, and that's not a priority. So we said, okay, well, we'll wait. You tell us, when. And then they had a change of economic development directors, because we had met earlier with economic development before. And so we met again when Courtney Pogue came on. And he said, this is a great idea. It's wonderful, but I'm working on a much larger plan of economic development, and this needs to be a piece of that. And it needs some long-term, long-range, it needs a lot of planning, and it needs to be able to bring in all the stakeholders. And I'm looking at the room right now, and I see a lot of people that are not even in this room that need to be at this table and talking about what this looks like. There's always a lot of concerns, but we're all excited about the opportunity to make something happen. I will say my experience with, I'll say real quick, for mimicking the state agency. The state agency is held within economic development, and it's only I think like a 6-member board at the state level, and yet we're looking at a much larger board. I've dealt with commissions more than 20 years, 25 years of hands-on dealing with commissions. Bigger numbers are not always better and doesn't always mean inclusion. And I know we still struggle with that in all our Metro agencies about inclusion, diversity, and equity. So I have concerns about that, and I want to make sure whatever we do moving forward does include everybody. My experience is also with different programs is really long-term funding, and that was an issue we brought up several times before Courtney Pogue. And again, we met again, and each time he said, it's coming, I'm going to work on something bigger, just wait. And so I hate, again, I don't like us rushing anything through, and I think we have an opportunity to do something really amazing, but I don't want it to see it crumble over time like the other agent, everything that it's been done before. It was done in the 90s, and each year, each administration whittled it down. Unfortunately, they would put it within the mayor's office, and that position would get absorbed into the mayor's office because the mayor's office has a limit on the number of positions, so they tend to hijack that position. So here we are again, and I'm just concerned. I love what we're trying to do, but I have a great amount of concerns, and my experience with any program is trying to find long-term funding, and I don't see any long-term funding even discussed yet. So while we mentioned there's some funding appropriated, I don't see anything really looking at how we're going to do this on a long-term basis. But again, I thank everybody for being here and giving us this chance to talk. And I will say, with each piece of legislation that's been discussed, we can all look at it and go, well, that's not great, that's not good, but this is good. I know Councilman Swope has, and others, and Council Lady Hurt and Syracuse and others are all looking at another piece of legislation. And I briefly looked at, and I just, it does look like it's a cleaner option than what we are looking at here. I just feel like everything needs to get cleaner, more succinct, and more focused. And I would like to see I do think when we look at music, it is its own entity, and it should have its own, not combined with this industry. I think what's been described is we're covering it. But again, I want to thank you.
Thank you. And so I want to mention again, we're getting a lot of confusion regarding the office and the commission. The legislation before us is to create a commission. It is not to create the office. That is different legislation, and it is not before us this evening. Tonight, we're talking about the creation of a commission that can work in conjunction with this future office. That is what we will be voting on tomorrow, not a new office. So as it pertains to the commission and having an entity that can work with this future office, which to Jonathan's point, thank you for bringing it up, one, financially has not been properly allocated. But again, there was supposed to be a big group where we talked about how to create this office and what that was going to look like. So there wasn't legislation put forth. There was going to be input and conversation and then legislation put forth. So with this new legislation, it sounds like there's not going to be any input. The commission that is before us has had conversation. And I would like us all to consider that as we're moving into tomorrow's meeting. This is a body that does not have a financial aspect to it at this point. These would all be commissioners that are volunteering their time to assist an office that will get funding. Currently is underfunded, should it open, but we haven't created that office yet. It doesn't exist. Right now, we are just talking about the creation of a commission. Is that clear? I feel like there's a lot of muddying happening, but I want people to be clear before we walk out. Would anyone else, did you want to say something? Yes, ma'am. The button on the right, if you push it, it'll turn green.
Hi, my name is Sherry Costanza Steady. In the film industry, I am known as Sherry Costanza. They call me Mother of Film. Pardon the sunglasses, I had surgery Friday, so. But in 1984, I literally mortgaged my home for my daughter to buy an Airflex 16 millimeter camera. We went forward, and next year we bought 2 more cameras. We wound up with 9 16 and 35 millimeter cameras that we shipped literally all over the world. There was a picture of an AC with our camera in Russia filming. I have been through a lot of commissioners that have been appointed by the governors or just appointed where they didn't know anything about how to represent us. We need it. I've been in this business a long time, and I'll keep, struggling to see that we are on the right foot. Right now, I have a fleet of motorhomes that I rent out for production. They go all over the 7 states that surround Tennessee. I've had Matthew McConaughey, Lady Gaga, Keith Urban calls me Mama, Garth Brooks, Taylor Swift from the time she was 15. Telling you how long I've been in this film industry. But we need a commissioner. We really do. And I just want to thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Yes, Councilmember Hurt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a claim of fame too. I don't know if I need to say it now, or if I need to wait till later. But Dan reminded me of it, and I've not had a chance to speak it. And because I have this audience, I thought that I would take advantage of it. And it's good to see you, Dan. I know, we traveled all the way to China to talk about stuff like this. So just, whenever you find it fitting, I just want to put
I have no idea what lane it would fall in. So why don't you just go ahead and tell us what this claim is?
Well, my claim to fame is that when I was a student, I'm originally from Memphis, and I used to work during the summer for Kelly Services. And for 2 years straight, they assigned me to a hospital in Memphis. And I was an excellent typist. And they would pull me from the office that I worked in, which was financial counseling, over to admissions because they would get backed up admitting patients. And so I was over there working. And it just happened to be on August 16th, 1977, that a patient came in, and I was the one that entered them into the hospital. You all know who I'm talking about? Yep. Who is it? Elvis Presley. So the day that he came, the day that he was the day he passed away, and his admissions documents, I was the one that keyed him into the computer. And I bought a bus from Graceland, too.
Thank you, Councilmember Hurd.
Thank you.
Is there any, yes, please.
I'll speak again.
Chris, actually, Chris Carr is right behind you. And then you can come back, Peter.
All right, I think my button's pushed. Sounded weird. Thanks so much for the opportunity to speak, and I'm just so thankful that council's working on this, that the administration seems to have the appetite to work on this, whatever this may be. And my name's Chris Cobb. I'm president of Music Venue Alliance Nashville, which we formed during the pandemic to advocate on behalf of Nashville's independent music venues, which ultimately is advocating on behalf of the creative working class, people who go to work every day, running those places, working in those places, playing in those places, which more often than not are the same people. They're behind the bar one day, they're on the stage the next. You guys know how this works. It's Nashville. Over the last 2.5 years during this work, I have talked with every leading expert I could get my hands on for these issues. Austin was mentioned. Believe it or not, Austin has a lot of great government, public-private partnership programs that I think we could learn a lot from. They do have better funding from the state than we have in Tennessee, right, which we keep coming back to because that state committed to the arts 100 years ago and ours doesn't seem to want to, but I'll put that aside. Seattle, Washington, D.C. is a great example where they got it wrong. A bunch of time and effort spent like what we're doing currently, and it failed. We've failed here in Nashville before in these matters. The Music City Music Council, I think, has not worked twice by my account. I'm sure there's other examples. I think again, I'm very glad that we're here working on these issues. Music's issues and film's issues, while they overlap, are different issues in Nashville today. The people who get up and make music and play music every day have different issues than the people who get up and make films every day. Very different issues. Further, I guess I just don't want us to screw it up because we have the opportunity finally, right, to do something and to get it right. And again, I've seen it messed up before here and elsewhere. My personal preference would be that we slow this process down and talk to stakeholders before we legislate, and that potentially we hire experts who have helped form and entities and bodies that have tackled this in other places and had success and proven success in doing that. And those people are out there. My great wish would be that our members of council could come together and put one piece of legislation forward, instead of having three opposing bills. I can't wrap my head around it, frankly. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you very much. I want to say again, these are two very separate entities. The creation of an office that would manage film, television, music, any entertainment in town is not the same as this legislation for a commission. That is a larger lift. That is work that we are supposed to be getting ready to embark upon in the creation of this office. And to your point, Chris, having stakeholder conversations about that. What would an office look like? How should it be structured? That is part of the research that I've been doing for over a year. This commission is just a small piece, but in terms of having an office and being able to come to the table and talk with everyone about what all of our needs are, that's coming. Right now, this is just about a commission. The commission is an extra body, it's extra hands, it's extra institutional knowledge, not only of Nashville and how Nashville has functioned, but also the industries that people will be bringing to the table. We can have a commission and we can have an office. Most cities do. Seattle has an office of music and film, and they have 2 consulting bodies. So creating this commission does in no way stop the creation of an office of film and entertainment or an office of film, anything that is being proposed outside of what today's legislation is. So please don't merge them together. They are 2 separate entities. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? I believe Peter? Yes. Oh. Name and what you do, please.
My name's Sydney Lunn, and I'm a location manager for film and television. And I just wanted to dovetail with what Chris was saying. One thing I'm familiar with is the ways that the music industry, the live venue scene in Nashville correlates with the film industry. There are so many film projects that I work on that come here to film in music venues to feature the music industry in the city. I worked on a long project this past winter that will be streamed on Apple, that was produced by Hello Sunshine, that is a music competition show. And we were featuring all sorts of venues around Metro. So I can speak to both how we do work together, work in conjunction. I know that a number of the venues we came to said, the location fee made a big difference to make up some of the losses from the previous year. The other thing I want to say is, for me as a location manager, I would love to see this office be a way to facilitate dealing with Metro government and Metro entities in terms of, so that we're working well with the community and make it a win-win situation for everybody, that we're working well in neighborhoods, that we're dealing with traffic control, that we're dealing with trash, that we're dealing with all the places that we might need to get permits, Metro schools. So those are things that I think, one is the creative side, one is the logistics side, but both of them really matter for this particular office. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sydney. And again, in the creation of this office, these are all the items that the office would be in control of. We are talking about the commission, though. The commission would help the office. Whatever the office determines its goals will be and how it's going to function for the city, this body would be able to assist them in doing what they determine the office is going to do. 2 separate entities. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the commission. I'm very excited about the office, though. Please understand. Yes, Councilmember Van Rees.
Hi. I think that I'm a little bit with Chris in regard to getting our heads wrapped around 3 different pieces of legislation. And I don't think I'm alone in that regard. And I know that your passion is very clear in regard to wanting to do this the right way as soon as possible. And my concern is that, if I'm understanding you correctly, the way that this legislation is proposing it, there would be the Nashville Entertainment Commission, that would be a body that would advise and counsel any subsequent offices that may be created. What I'm hearing from the stakeholders that are present is that that's almost cart before the horse, whereas we need the office to exist and be funded, and then a commission be created to be an advisory. And that's how I'm hearing it, and that seems to be the decision. Am I? No? Could I get some clarity from the stakeholders as to what I'm hearing as to whether or not one should follow the other, or if we need both.
I certainly can't speak for everybody. I'll say there have been a number of offices that have been set up over time, usually under the auspices of the mayor. And if there's going to be an office, and I know this is about the commission, it needs to be structured in a way that works for everybody. It can't be just something that, not naming names, but let's say somebody who is a friend of the executive, and they say, well, you know something about this, you just do it. That isn't adequate. There needs to be, this has to be an office that's structured to serve the community and the needs of the people involved in it. And to my mind, that would mean that if this commission is made up of members of the community and others who can speak as to what the needs are, then they can help steer how that office is created. Who's hired would be a really good choice. What the staff needs are, what the job description is for that office. That all has to be done through this group of people, whatever it is, that helps to steer that along. And so I really do feel that the commission has to come first, or they have to go hand in hand. But I don't think you open the office first, because then you get the same thing we've always had, which is inadequate.
That's extremely helpful, and I think it offered clarity to all of us. I know it did to me. I noticed that in the legislation, the second paragraph to the end of the first page, it says that the newly created Nashville Entertainment Commission that will work with the newly created Office of Music, Film, and Entertainment. And so it's kind of, is this legislation establishing both at the same time?
No. The creation of the commission, one of its functions would be to work with this new office that we're getting ready to embark upon putting together. That is what the intention for that paragraph is.
Well, I mean, if I can get some legal advice in regard to that language, because that will work with the newly created office of, means that there is a newly created office called.
There was money set aside. The office exists. The money was set aside in the budget. So Mayor Cooper announced that there would be an office for music, film, and entertainment. So this commission could work with that office that has already, it exists, I guess, on paper.
So
what it does yet is what has not been determined. Like it doesn't have a director. It's just been a line item of here's this office and $100,000 been set aside.
Hey man, I mean, look, I think we all want the same thing. We want film and television to get the due respect that it deserves. I was served on the Nashville Film Festival board about 1,000,000 years ago with Andy Van Roon, and we've been working diligently to get people to come here, and you know, I've known Mrs. Costanza's daughter in the past, and I have some understanding of how long ago that was, and how we are still now in 2022 talking about creating an office for film. I think it's quite sad. And if there's anything that I can do to make sure that we have an office of film and television, period, then I want to be able to do that. And I know that the film and television community will continue to work with its brothers and sisters in the music entertainment industry, because it's like brothers and sisters working together. That is how Nashville works, as Dave indicated. What I'm concerned about is that the passion for getting a commission done and seated has confused the end goal a bit. And so time to kind of consolidate this into one document that clearly indicates what the desires of both the film and television industry have, and any concerns that the music industry has, is still possible. And I know that if I'm confused and others are confused, then that means that you need to keep working on it, as opposed to just doing something and hoping for the best. am surprised and yet not surprised that this continues to be kind of hot potato. And I know that ultimately your desire is to make sure that people quit passing the ball, right? And we need to do something. So I want to, pledge to keep working on this, but I know that I'm all in on finding a way to give the film and television industry its opportunity to stand alone and get the respect it deserves in Music City.
Thank you, Councilmember Van Rees. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Yes, please. You can speak as often as you'd like.
I'm sorry I've come up again, but I just was answering your question. I don't understand, I gotta say, how Metro government works. This is a new experience for me, and it's been very eye-opening. That being said, the perfect is the enemy of the good. Time is of the essence. Right now, there is that $2 million state grant, but there is also a capless state incentive based on franchise and excise tax credits that right now has led to a huge surge of work, including, this NBC series, which is in Memphis. There's additional money from the state that's paying for the Dolly Parton movie in East Tennessee. But Nashville has, there's one already underway, but there's 3 other feature films starting in August. And there's more stacked up after that we have more work here than we've had in a really long time because the incentive money is available. People are seeing us as a destination. And there's really a need for an effective way for the city to approach motion picture, television, and related industries. Personally, I'm not in the music industry. I was born into the music industry. My family's been in the music industry forever, in venues, in performance. So I'm very familiar with it. But that's not what I'm here to talk on behalf of. But I do want to say that it seems to me that the existence of an organization that tries to steer the city towards addressing these entertainment industries is effective, even if all of those industries have different aspects that need to be dealt with. And just because a commission is established that includes all those doesn't mean it's going to focus on film in a way that is going to be exclusionary of music or prevent music industry people from coming together. It may actually help facilitate that. I also want to say that as we address these larger companies that are coming in, this F&E incentive can only really apply to large unionized industry that pays very well, pays benefits, is hiring thousands of people like the Nashville television series did. And we need to address their needs. And they are offering, as you're talking about DEI, they're offering DEI initiatives already in Memphis. We'd like to do it here. In Memphis, it's being done in a partnership with the Memphis Film Office and the IATSE. That is a new thing that's in the contracts now that we want to implement everywhere. Specifically in Nashville would be great. And that's got to happen soon. And so we can try to make a perfect thing right now, but we need to do something quickly and not drag this out too much longer because we're missing so many opportunities if we do. That's all I want to say.
I really appreciate that, Peter. And as we are approaching 6:30, I did just want to wrap up by saying thank you all so very much. Oh, Councilmember Syracuse.
Thank you, Councilwoman. If it's okay, I just have a statement to read, if that's all right. I put my thoughts together because obviously I have a lot of thoughts about this. I'll try to be brief. I appreciate it. So this topic has been one the sponsor and I have spoken about some months before she filed the bill. And I really do sincerely appreciate the engagement that we've had talking about this. But it was just filed 1 week after the mayor announced that he was going to work with the sponsor and me on building an Office of Music, Film, and Entertainment. The title of the office came from meetings I've been having for a couple of years with the admin, CVC, Chamber, about revitalizing the Music City Music Council. Because of the sponsor's engagement and advocacy about including film and trying to find those synergies, film was included in the title as we continue discussions about how to best create a more and a better evolved, sustainable structure for our creative industries. There was indeed discussions about finding the synergies between music and film and seeing if they could live under one umbrella. Both Butch at the CVC and I express interest in this concept, but we've both consistently communicated to the sponsor and others that our brand is music, and we need to lead with music. And while I'm always open to other ideas and would never dictate a structure without robust community engagement, many of us have expressed reservations about making this effort too broad and unwieldy. We already went through that years ago when the Nashville Music Council was created under Mayor Dean. Just with music alone, there was so many industry leaders and advocates in this town that it became too big, too quick, and difficult to manage. That's when it was brought back in-house, rebranded as the Music City Music Council, and it did find some successes within that structure, but as we all know, it wasn't sustainable. The admin nor I were made aware that this legislation was even coming. It's a topic that needs careful and collaborative thought to include industry leaders, which has been done as a standard part of any effort to forge a private-public partnership with our major industries in this city, be it health, tech, or any other. In collaboration with the Mayor's Office, CVC, Chamber, Arts, Historic, and Planning, there is a plan based on the time that we all have spent together discussing the Independent Local Music Venue Study and the revitalization of the Music City Music Council, and ultimately what that proper relationship is between executive and legislative branches. The new Mayor's Office of Music, Film, and Entertainment was a solid first step of solidifying a sustainable private-public partnership structure. Despite the narrative that somehow has been put out there, no one in the Mayor's Office nor I have ever said that this needs to be solely controlled by the Mayor's Office. However, given that the Mayor's Office was not even invited to the stakeholder meeting, it should give us further pause that this process has not been done in the spirit of full collaboration. The Mayor's Office is a stakeholder, as they are with any other board or commission proposal. The RFP that is going out imminently, I've been saying that for, I know, a few weeks, but I understand it finally, speed of government, it's finally going out. It's focused on supporting local independent music venues for sure, but it's much more based on the result of this working group's efforts. It has deliverables that asks for an analysis of our past efforts and asks for the hired consultant to help us in forging that right private-public structure that can be sustainable. There are very talented third-party objective consultants that have done this and continue to do this very successfully for cities. We need that assistance here in Nashville. In conjunction with this effort, the Mayor's Office and I have been working to put together a roughly 40-member advisory group, steering committee, whatever you really want to call it, to be able to vet these efforts through and engage with the consultant, help write and hire the director in the Mayor's Office, review the results of the RFP, and work with us on the sustainable private partnership. This 40-member advisory group that we put together has a very keen lens through equity. As we've heard this all night tonight, it's very, very important. If we forge ahead with this proposal of creating an entertainment commission, it undercuts the efficacy of this consultant to help us objectively in putting together this effort. I do agree, we need some sort of configuration of a board or a commission or an agency or some kind of entity that's not in the Mayor's Office. But I think one reason many on this council have been a little confused about this proposal, and especially in the Budget and Finance Committee, as most of those votes there had been not voting, because there's a lack of context and strategy really for what we're doing and why. I would like to slow this down and help engage the full council on it so that there's greater confidence about what we're doing. Many of our colleagues have come to me wondering what this bill is all about, why, as they're not in the industry and want to learn. And there really isn't even a good fiscal note and analysis to the bill. The one thing that this conversation has brought to the surface, shown in the emails that we've all received that have vastly been from the film community, is that we need to focus on a private-public entity that supports the film, TV, and entertainment industries. I feel strongly, again, that if we try to combine the two, it will be unwieldy and difficult to manage. However, as we all know, there are natural synergies between music and film, and the music community does need a seat at the table as discussions about film, TV, video games, other digital content are advocated for. But film deserves its own focused entity that can partner with the Tennessee Entertainment Commission at the state level. Now, let me get to the heart and soul of why I'm passionate about this and ensuring we get this right. The reason that I cannot support the creation of an entertainment commission is both philosophical, but also from the perspective of the brand we've created of Music City and the billions of economic impact that it creates for us. After watching the independent working songwriter that used to have a stable income in this town be detrimentally impacted by the digital revolution that began in the late 90s, to the exponential growth of this city, hypergentrification affecting our creatives' ability to be able to afford to live here, as well as small business owners like our local music venues struggling to do business here and closing up before our eyes. To me, this is not a discussion that is based on entertainment. This is a deep-rooted cultural discussion. Our rapid growth and development have been steamrolling over our culture as a city where drunken and raucous entertainment reigns supreme on Lower Broadway is now eminently poised to overtake and destroy the Rock Block. So now that this proposal comes to this council, should take on our struggling music ecosystem and place it as an equal partner with the film community as a new entertainment commission. This is not how we should be valuing music in this town. It should be revered, it should be respected, and it should be treated with great care and humility. This RFP is ground zero for this discussion. It's not just about preserving, supporting, advancing the local independent music venues of yesterday and tomorrow. It's about the city acknowledging that we can no longer take for granted that we're a global capital of music. And the consultant we hire via the RFP will lead us in that process. After years of not achieving a sustainable private-public structure, both executive and legislative branches at those levels of the local government, it's now more important than ever to get this right. Applying proactive measures to study and apply data-driven music ecosystem policy is something other cities like Austin are already doing. We need to do the same thing here in this city, and we have to be laser focused on ensuring the songwriters, composers, musicians, and those like me working in the industry are part of creating the greatest music city on this planet. So I humbly submit to everyone that we need to work together via this process that has already been laid out, as I just articulated, and work together in the short term, as we've heard from our film community, to go ahead and move forward with a laser-focused film, TV, and entertainment industry support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Syracuse. So, as I was getting ready to say to wrap up, I think for stakeholders, Councilmember Rutherford, please.
Thank you, Councilmember Stiles. Something that I've been confused about in this process, and I know that a couple of folks had expressed this as well from the statements that we heard in relation to not wanting a commission to fall under the mayor's office, and I can understand that sentiment. But in looking at the legislation that you've proposed, I'm questioning or trying to figure out, where does this commission fall within the structure of Metro government? Who's housing it? Where is it located?
So in essence, this would exist kind of in the way that Metro Arts has their setup. So there's staff from the mayor's office that would assist the executive director of the commission, but it's not directly housed within the mayor's office, so that there's not that sense of feeling like there's control. And to what you heard this evening, that people would be appointed, so favorites would be appointed. This is more so that we can have a body that exists that can have feedback and can speak with government so they can share what their needs are, but won't be controlled necessarily by government.
So if I understand that correctly, it's not attached to any Metro department or
Not
office
right now.
otherwise? We say not right now. Will it
Right.
be?
So when I was having conversations about how this could work and how we could function, the biggest thing, of course, I kept hearing was about not having the mayor involved. And so when I was speaking with Hannah on how to create it, I was informed that it can exist and it can have mayoral staff, but the executive director would be chosen by the commission. And so it's still a recognized entity, just like our other boards and commissions, but not falling directly under that control. That makes more sense. Okay, because I'm so sorry, but I wanted to be sure that I addressed Councilmember Syracuse's missive. So for all the stakeholders that came here tonight, I really appreciate you, whatever side that you were on, for coming and sharing, talking to council members and providing really great information. I think you also can see why we haven't been able to come up with one piece of legislation and why it has gotten very messy and ego-based and not constituent-based. So for the last month, we've received emails in support of this legislation to move forward because there is a desire to have a body, a commission. It's not an office. Again, the office is coming. This is not it. This is something separate that, again, can exist outside of the office, but can definitely work together and be respectful of the history of Nashville in terms of music, but also acknowledge that we have a very great film and television existence here and how they can work together, and they already do, and they do overlap. I think we've heard concerns about a future office that doesn't look like the past. I think that's good for us to take moving forward as we create this future office. Tomorrow's legislation is only about the creation of a commission that can assist with said office. As I said, I think it's very important. I think we're doing some cart before the horse in trying to have an RFP that's including items we did not vote on. We voted on a music venue study, and so if there's anything else, then we need to vote on that too. You cannot just throw it in there because that's what you would like to do. And also, this is not a matter of picking and choosing who has the right plan. If we're working together, then we all have a plan, but you cannot position my plan as the best plan because you're not doing it the way I would like you to do it. So I would caution council members in listening to understand motives, understand that for weeks we have received emails from constituents saying that they are in favor of this legislation. And I don't believe that you've heard from anyone tonight that if they disagreed with it, they wouldn't have sent us an email saying, I think this is a great idea, but I think we should wait. We didn't get those emails. We also did not receive any emails from anyone within the music industry saying that they had an issue with its existence. There were several music entities that responded. We even had the creative director of BMI also send an email letting us know that they were in support of this commission. So with that, and Dave, thank you very much for coming. Please do not interrupt me, Councilmember Syracuse. I did not interrupt you. Thank you.
May I speak?
No, as soon as I'm finished. Mr. Pomeroy, thank you very much for coming. Thank you for our conversations in regards to this, because the goal has always been to include everyone. And in trying to come up with a substitute at one point, I apologize that it seemed that music had been left off the table. Music is very, very important to me, and so I apologize for that. And certainly making sure that there's a third member on the commission that is from your union was very important. Tomorrow evening, we are on second reading. After many deferrals and histrionics, I think we would be, I think it would be a shame as council members if we are ignoring what we're hearing from constituents to play games with one another and do councilmatic courtesy. So I just encourage everyone to read the legislation, look at the emails that we have received from the people that we have received them. These are not people that are new to the industry. Many of them have been involved for a very, very long time and have given feedback. This commission does not change the creation of an office, and I think to everyone's point, we all want an office that will live beyond us, that we get started and we get to see build, grow, and flourish. I think that is our next step beyond this legislation, is to work on the office. The mayor's office wants to have 40 person, probably more now, because it originally started as music. That was its function. So now that we're adding film and television, it's going to be more extensive, but I think it's going to be robust. And I think concerns such as Mr. Jonathan mentioned, it is important that we get it right. We've failed a lot in the past, and so I think this is a lightning in the bottle moment. And this commission is a good thing to have ahead of having an office. I don't think that it is, I don't think it's moving too quickly. I think there are plenty of people that have spoken via email. Some people aren't here because they're working. They're out of town. They got called to gigs and they couldn't be here tonight, and they really wanted to be. And I think we have to keep that in mind. Creating a commission, creating an office, this is about enabling our industries to be able to work at home and not leave families for weeks and months at a time. So how we do that is very critical. So I thank all the council members, Mr. Eagles, did you want to speak? And then Councilmember Syracuse.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Ben Eagles from the mayor's office. Wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but just wanted to express from our perspective how grateful we are for all of the feedback and ideas from the film and music industries. And just want to express, regardless of how the council decides to vote tomorrow, the mayor's committed to finding a way forward here. I think we're in a bit of a unique situation with multiple bills, each coming from very thoughtful council members with well-meaning approaches to what is a complex issue. And I think a lot has been talked tonight about the various approaches in the past, Music City Music Councils that definitely solved issues and moved the ball forward. But for whatever reason, both the council and the particular role within the office didn't stand the test of time. And so the meeting, the planning retreat that we have in mind is basically to broaden the conversation that's happened tonight. Want to continue the conversation, and that's regardless of how the vote happens tomorrow. We know the film and music industries have synergies. They also have unique needs. And whether the commission is formed and then we figure out how to move forward with an office that responds appropriately to the diverse needs of those industries, or whether or not they happen concurrently, or if the office and kind of mission statement and job description, which is what we hope to come out of that planning retreat, whether that happens first and then the planning retreat and that mission and scope also informs the formation of the commission. Whichever way it happens, we're committed to figuring it out, and wanted to thank everyone here today for the feedback. And if you want to reach me, I know Max has emailed me. I owe Max a response. My email is benjamin.eagles@nashville.gov. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eagles. Councilmember Syracuse.
Thank you. I just need to make a representative correction here. Shannon Sanders is my friend. He's my colleague. He is the one who wrote into council from his personal email address. This ordinance is not endorsed by the company that I've been working for the past 24 years. Shannon Sanders was president of Nashville Music Equality, and he wrote in from that perspective. So it's not appropriate nor correct to say that one of the largest music employers here, and who I've been working for the past almost 24 years, has endorsed this. They have not. I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you. As I didn't mention BMI, I said Shannon Sanders actually endorsed it. So thank you all so very much for coming this evening. Thank you everyone else who is watching online, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. And on that note, we are adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.